Welcome everyone to another episode of Open Mic with the MVP Marco. I am, of course, your host, the MVP Marco. Um, I feel like I'm doing these weekly. I try not to, but I'm just pumping out as many interviews as I can because it's fun. I love talking to different people, and if you're getting sick of me, I understand. If you don't want to hear my voice, that's tough because I'm pretty much everywhere, and I'm going to get to that in a few seconds because this show is brought to you by the Pod Foundation. And if you haven't heard by now, the Pod Foundation, it's a collection of all the best content creators, the best podcasters. I'm biased because I'm on it. Um, and obviously that consists of the Chick Foley Show, which I am on. I'm I get my musings there sometimes from time to time, but yeah, we have Sheena's a part of that, Chick Foley, Seth, and Jordan, the Fig God, rounds that whole crew out. Then we have the Turnbuckle Tavern. If you haven't heard of the Turnbuckle Tavern, they literally have a podcast every single day of the week. That covers pretty much the gamut of everything. Not going to go down the rabbit hole, but more importantly, they do cover WWE, and I am actually a part of the Turnbuckle Tavern feed. I'm on their Raw Down show every Thursday night live at 8 o'clock on their YouTube channel. Definitely check that out. Which leads me to my partner on that show. Actually, he's J Bone. He's also part of the Pod Foundation. He has his podcast Coming Down the Aisle with J Bone. So definitely check that out. Check us all out. We try our best to pump out as much content as we can. We're not getting paid for it. It's all free right now. So, definitely check us out. But nonetheless, that's enough of us. Let's get to the person that I'm bringing on the show this week. Now, this individual is quite the figure, no pun intended, in the collecting community. Uh, you can look forward to an amazing array of t-shirts on this guy. We're definitely gonna get to that. My wife like hates the fact that I have a million t-shirts. So I'm gonna pick his brain to see if how to kind of combat that with his wife and everything. But let me just bring him on, Mr. Kyle Peterson. How are you, sir?
Hello, I'm just smiling hearing your musings about t-shirts.
Yeah, I like I said, before I brought you on, I kind of limited my t-shirt collection. I had a ton of t-shirts, and my wife one day seen the piles and piles of t-shirts I had, and she was like, "You got to get rid of some of these. This is getting ridiculous." And I was like, "You might be right." So I did my due diligence, being a good husband, and got rid of some t-shirts, but I gotta keep some. How does that work with you? Like, you know, how does that
It's
work with the t-shirts? Is she fine with it? Your wife, is she
yeah,
does she just accept it? Is it
it's
is
so
she
funny.
adding to it?
Yeah, I got a lot of t-shirts. I got a huge t-shirt collection, and I rarely ever throw out a t-shirt. I mean, it has to be ran through the gamut to get thrown out. But
Yeah.
I've been collecting t-shirts forever, and I never get rid of any, like I said. And I think one thing that helps is we have separate closets. So she just does her closet.
Ah,
I don't know what's going on in her closet. And she knows what's going on in mine. She does the laundry, thankfully, so she knows what's going on in mine. But um, I've got 2 closets full of shirts, and then I got a couple of dressers full of shirts. I got shirts
mm.
everywhere, but luckily my wife is the most forgiving wife ever in more ways than one. She's been on this channel many a times.
Oh
Actually, we
yeah.
did a video series and slowly been putting them out. We filmed, I think, 15 videos going through my t-shirt collection. And I think we put like 2 of them on YouTube, but the rest are on my Patreon, and they'll get there eventually. But one
Yeah.
by one, telling a story, and just like any action figure, I got a story for about every T-shirt I've picked up. So it's
Dang.
kind of
Yeah.
funny.
I did see that. I did see a few of those. That's why I brought it up because I was, going through, me and my son watch your videos. He's 7 right now, so
Oh yeah,
he's into, he's not really into collecting. He's into obviously, figures and stuff like that. So we watch that. My buddy Jay Brown, before like wrestling events, if we're like just hanging out and stuff like that, we'll throw on a few of your videos and unboxings and stuff like that just to watch. My buddy's a fan of yours as
there
well.
you go.
So
Got to
yeah,
buddy.
we did see the t-shirt ones, and like I said, that just struck a chord with me because like I said, my wife hates the fact that I have a million t-shirts, but some of I just can't get rid of. Like you said,
Yeah.
there's a story to every single, pretty much every t-shirt that I have.
Yeah.
And specifically this one, I am a Ultimate Warrior fanatic. If you ever listen to
Oh
Chick
yeah.
Foley, you know that I love Ultimate Warrior. So does Jordan, the Fig God on the show as well. We're Warrior fanatics.
Good
Um,
Warrior Brothers.
yeah, and I
Yes,
actually
sir.
my one of my videos, my favorite videos from yours is the when you count down the top 10 Ultimate Warrior figures.
Yeah.
And actually seen I have the last one, spoiler alert, LJN Ultimate Warrior.
Yep.
Definitely my favorite figure out of my whole collection.
Yeah.
Um, do you share the same love
Yeah.
for the Warrior
Oh,
as
yeah. I mean that in that Warrior LJN. I mean, everybody always says, "What's your Grail item?" Probably a mint on card LJN Warrior is going to be
oh
my
yes.
Grail item. I mean, that's got to
Mm.
be it. I have a minty loose one, of course, and I mean, I could go on about the Warrior forever. I mean, he's affected so many aspects of my life. Just and it's weird too because you're probably like me. I mean, it'd be weird if the Warrior came along in this day and age. I
Oh
don't
my
think he'd
god.
be popular. I mean, it's just it's like if you
No.
weren't there, you weren't there. It's just one of those things. Like if he came here today, it wouldn't be the same. But just for the time and the place, and I know everybody, and you know everything, all the bad stuff everybody says, but man,
Yep.
to little kids out there, little kids don't care about that backstage drama. They
Nope.
care about what they see, they care about what they're seeing, and just the power of the Warrior and the physique, obviously, the over the top character.
Yep.
And I met him when I was a little kid briefly in a bathroom, but I mean,
Wow.
he was so cool to me just for that 2 seconds we interacted. I mean, he didn't have to be cool to some little 8-year-old kid. I mean, he didn't have
Yeah.
to. And and I'm sure you're a lot like me. I'm going to treat people how they treated me, and that's the way I'm going to be. But the Warrior, I mean, I based a lot of my life cut off of Warrior intensity and
Yep.
following through and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it sounds so cheesy, but it's one of those things. If you were there, you were there. You understand.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. And here's a funny thing. Like I always think of like, John Cena in that sense, where obviously, like you said, if the Warrior showed up now, he probably wouldn't be taken seriously. And kind of the same thing happened with John Cena. Him wearing the bright colors and
Yeah,
the crazy color shirts and combinations and all that stuff. And he kind of had that kind of the same flair that, Ultimate
it,
Warrior had.
it's
He sprints down, he
yeah,
does
it's
the whole
totally
thing.
different. It's totally
Yeah.
different, but the same thing at the same time. Because I've never thought about that ever in my life. But you're right. I mean, he doesn't got the face paint, all that, but he's
Nope.
definitely got the physique. He's got
Yep.
the colors,
The
and he's
colors.
got a passionate fan base and a
Yep.
polarizing fan base.
Yep.
In all honesty, so I mean, it is a very good correlation. I never really thought
Yeah.
about that. So there you go.
Yeah, and he was obviously even when the Warrior came back and he was doing his
Yep.
like rounds and stuff like that. John they interviewed all the people, all the current guys at the time anyway. John Cena said the same thing. He lived by like the power of the Warrior, and he like you said, it ignited a lot of young people back then, like including
Yeah.
myself and you, like just see like you said, forgetting the bad stuff and not listening to any of that, like you said, you had to be there in that position to like actually get like the joy
Yeah.
that he brung essentially. And same thing with, I mean, you can say the same thing with Hulk Hogan, man. I mean, forever a legend. I mean, obviously minus the bad stuff. I mean,
Yep.
he's always etched in the minds of literally everybody. He's the
Yep.
most iconic wrestler in the world. I mean,
Yep. I remember
it's he,
I was in college at the time, and Warrior was putting out videos a lot of like inspirational messages and stuff
mm,
on YouTube, and like he would be
yep,
getting ready to go to the gym, and here's his thoughts for the day. And man,
yeah,
I'd listen to those before I hit the gym every single day. I mean, I used to work out extremely hard back in the day, like when we were younger and stuff. So I would get fired up with Warrior going into the gym every day, getting those words of wisdom and stuff. And I listened to that stuff every single day. And I remember he did I don't know if you ever heard this, but there's a metal band called Winds of Plague. I'm not a big fan, but they're a pretty niche metal band. But Warrior actually sang lead on one of the songs.
oh really?
Look that up on YouTube. It's
What the
interesting.
heck?
It's more spoken word, but it's pretty crazy. So I remember I used to listen to that thing to get me fired up back in the day too.
Huh, I did, I was, speaking of bands, I did see you, I mean, you've probably seen, like, the, kinda, I think it was gonna be a reality series on, like, VH1 or MTV. He was doing like a workout, not really. I mean, he's pretty much like a drill sergeant to
Yeah.
these young kids and stuff like that. And it was
And he
pretty
did too.
entertaining.
Oh, I love that. I was so into that. I think that was the coolest thing ever. I think it was Asking Alexandria was the band.
Yes, that's what it
And
was. Yeah,
there
that's
was
right.
another one that was filmed too that didn't get around. I don't even know what's around anymore. But it's funny is I'm really good buddies with a guy that was in a band. We Are Harlot. I don't know if you heard of them, but
Yes.
they did the theme song for Raw a few years back,
Yep.
of course. So he was in a band with Danny from Asking Alexandria, and I did ask him about that time if he ever heard
Oh
anything
my
about it. So
god.
it's kind of funny,
Oh.
full circle.
Yeah, he was pretty intense on that, and I was like, do these people know who this is? It's the Ultimate Warrior. Why aren't they? Why aren't
Yeah,
they listening to him?
and he said, my buddy said, I think when he said he talked to him and asked him about that, they felt really bad about that because they didn't really understand who he was or know who he was, and they
Yeah,
didn't feel they gave him the proper respect he deserved, and they
yeah.
would
I
love to do
mean,
that back over.
yeah, it's I mean, it's a different world too, especially if you're not into, the world of professional
Yeah.
wrestling. I mean, that's a given. I wouldn't really, obviously, like you said, they felt bad, but I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't feel bad at all.
Yeah,
If,
and I think it
I
made for them being the way they were and Warrior being the way they were, made for good TV, so
Exactly, yeah.
worked
Because if I mean, I know who he is, and if I'm on that show, I'm gonna be like
yeah,
giddy and being a fanboy pretty much
yeah.
on that whole show. I'm not
We would
gonna,
be terrible on that show because we would listen to everything he says, and we
yeah,
wouldn't fight back at all. "Okay, we'll
no.
do it."
We just pass out
Yeah,
during a workout,
exactly.
and
Yep.
but oh man, but I could go on for forever with Ultimate Warrior, but
We'll do
I will.
a sub, stream of just Warrior discussion.
Yeah,
It'll
no,
be
yeah, I might have to have you back on. We could just do like
yeah,
a Warrior retrospective,
there
which would
you
be pretty
go.
cool. But yeah, I just want to let's go back way in the beginning to little Kyle. We'll say
Yeah.
what started the whole this mask, because you don't just collect like
No.
wrestling figures, which is obviously why a lot of us have all like joined together, and we're all a part of each other's lives in some way, but you literally collect like everything.
Yeah. I
So
collect a
where did
lot
this
of stuff.
start? Like how did this come to
You know,
fruition?
being a little kid in the '80s, that's what I always say. The '80s, you had all the television and all the
Mm,
properties and all the cartoons, all the classic ones. You had G.I. Joe, you had He-Man, you had, Star Wars, Turtles, wrestling, obviously kind of
yep.
in that circle. Just being a child of the '80s and just different times in the '80s. You were a little kid and there was that stuff around all the time. You came home to and from school. Those cartoons were very accessible. We didn't
Mm,
have a million channels back then,
yep.
so your options were limited. And the friends at school, they played with GI Joe, He-Man, or whatever, so of course you're talking to them and going back and forth, and really started at an early age for me. I think I probably started with He-Man probably when I was like 3 years
Hmm.
old. I mean, that's the earliest I remember getting an action figure. Would have been He-Man, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Star Wars was basically out around that time too. It's got some Star Wars stuff, and just worked my way into other properties, and some fell off and some stayed forever, really, at the end of
Mm.
the day. So
Did
that's kind of
you
how it started.
Did you stay like do you so with your collection now, is it a continuation? Did you, like you said, you dropped off? Did you like is this from your past, everything that you have, or did you like
So,
reconnect
yeah,
and buy things
I,
over
uh,
again?
I don't have a ton of vintage stuff, and I kinda like it that way in a little bit. It's
Yeah.
kinda like leaving my childhood behind, and
Mm.
I don't know. There's probably something psychological in there somewhere, but I really, basically, when I went away to college, I said, you know what? I got all these toys. I got all this kind of stuff. I should really sell this. This was like kind of the beginnings of eBay and things like
Yeah.
that. eBay had been around a few years, so it was fairly known. And I said, wow, I could sell all this stuff and probably get some money. And I wasn't one of those kids that was bashing his figures together. I kept my stuff pristine as a little kid. Like, I'd invite friends over, and if I saw they were one of those mashers and breaking toys, okay, let's play video games. Um, so I actually sold my whole collection, almost my whole collection. I kept my original
Mm.
GI Joe aircraft carrier, which I still have. A few other sentimental pieces I kept, but I ended up selling the lion's share of my collection, and definitely a regret in a lot of ways. But in some ways, I don't know, you kind of have to go through that, I think, a little bit. But then, I've always collected. I didn't stop buying stuff. I just said, hey, I could sell all this. And obviously, during college, you don't quite have the funds you have when you're a full adult.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you're sitting there and I'm piecing together. I'm picking up bits and pieces of things. I'm always looking at the store. I mean, you're going to the grocery store every week anyway. So I'm going to take a look down the toy aisle. I've been doing that since I was a little kid. So I would see what's going on and kind of keep tabs on stuff and say, oh man, I wish I could buy this, wish I could buy that. But you couldn't, and you picked and choose what you bought. And
Yeah.
that's what I did through college. But then once you get out of college, you start working, you get in the working world, you get a little bit more income. And it's like, okay, what's this Jack's Classic Superstars line all about? And that's kind of what really snowballed into this madness I'm in right now. So,
wow. Jeez. Did you, so what was the first line that you really like sunk your teeth into as far as collecting?
yeah, I would say, I mean, as a kid, I mean, it was straight up with Masters of the Universe. And, my
Okay.
dad comes on the channel with me fairly regularly. Actually, my dad was over today. We filmed five videos back to back today. So,
Jeez.
but my dad always understood collecting, I guess, from a child's brain a little bit.
Yeah.
And, he would know, like, if we're getting GI Joes and we're at the Toys R Us or whatever, we're looking for stuff. And if we saw it's a Storm Shadow, and we don't see that very often, he'd be like, we better just buy this. So I was very fortunate the fact that my dad would be like, you know what? I'm not going to come back here. We're going to get it eventually. We might as well just get this over with. And
Yeah.
he would pick some of that up. So really, I'd say GI Joe, the old school GI Joe, is really where I intensified my collection as far as, okay, Dad, we're going to Toys R Us this Friday. I was good all week. I didn't get in trouble, whatever. I get one figure. All right, Dad, here's the plan. We're going to pick up Dial Tone. Now, if Dial Tone's not there, we're going down to Mainframe. If he's not there, it's Diorama. Have a whole to-do list ready to go. So that was really the start of collecting. And then it really, like I said, really ramped up once I got out of college. And I just happened to go to Toys R Us on one of those trips. And, I paid attention to the internet, but not really.
Yeah.
Even collecting wise, until about 3 years ago, I mean, that's a whole story in itself. I never paid attention to collecting online. It was just something I did. And I never put two and two together like, hey, I
Yeah.
love heavy metal. I'm going to go to this heavy metal band site. I'm going to go to their Facebook group. I'm going to go to stuff like that. I never did that with collecting for some reason. I just didn't feel the need for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But then the Jack's Class Superstars, I just happened to stroll in Toys R Us, see that Ultimate Warrior right there, and bam, that was the beginning of the end for me. So it was like, okay, completionist on Jack's Class Superstar. I'm getting all these. And then, just going down the list and slowly adding new properties into the mix.
And so your father, does he collect himself
Yeah,
at
so
all? Does he? Okay.
in the heyday of 80s and 90s, he was big into the starting lineup figures. If you remember starting lineup?
Oh yes, yeah, definitely.
He
Yeah.
was all in on starting lineups, and I was getting my GI Joe, my X-Men, all that kind of stuff. And starting lineups was the real deal. People don't. It's like people talk about the Cabbage Patch Kids, and that was a little
Yeah.
before my time. But starting lineup heyday was dog eat dog out there. I mean, there was a line of 15 people at Toys R Us every single morning waiting to get in to get the
Jeez.
starting lineup figures. And they sold for astronomical amounts of money. I mean, wild era that just, it's almost like Beanie Babies. You can't even believe you were in the mix of all that kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
My dad had a collection very similar to me. I mean, that's what gave me inspirations for this is he had a huge basement. He built a house and he wallpapered his entire basement with starting lineup figures, the whole thing. I mean,
Wow.
it was awesome. So we'd go to the conventions and things like that. But so he was a collector, and I remember it's like the greatest thing ever. I wish my two daughters would love to do this, but like he'd be like, Kyle, it's 7 a.m. We got to get up. We got to go to Toys R Us. We got to go to Walmart. We got to go, and we're going to go to 10 of them in town, and then we're going to travel out of town. We're going to go to these Toys R Us's and Walmarts. I mean, it was the
Wow.
greatest thing ever when you're a little kid. I still love looking for toys out there in the wild, and I do it every week. So that was a big thing. So my dad was right in there with me, and and I was a little kid at the time, and my dad wasn't a guy that was going to run through the stores chasing with those doors open, but little
Yeah.
8, 10, 12-year-old Kyle, he had no shame. I did direct sprints when the doors opened. All these grown men chasing after me. I mean, if I only had cameras back then.
That's funny.
Now, my dad is retired. He retired, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. And he doesn't collect like he used to at all, but he's kind of got into it a little bit, especially the NECA Universal Monster stuff. Because when he was a
Yeah.
very little kid, he collected Universal Monsters, model kits and things like that. So he's all in on the NECA Universal Monsters. He picks and chooses on some GI Joes, and he dabbles in some weird stuff too, like World of Warcraft. He's collecting World of
Okay.
Warcraft figures, but he's never
Wow.
played the game, never seen the game. He just likes the figures, which I always think is just crazy when I come over. He's got a big display full of World of Warcraft figures.
That's cool.
he likes how they look. So he buys stuff like that, like Street Fighter figures he's into. He's never played Street Fighter, but he likes Street Fighter figures. So he's a complicated guy, but he's pretty interesting.
I was telling my young son this, like, he's 7 years old, but I was actually telling him the same thing. Like, we were talking about something where, you don't have to like something to, collect something, or you don't have to, and vice versa. Because I think we were playing like, I bought him the, I shouldn't have anyway, because he's probably gonna smash them to pieces. The Gamerverse Spider-Man figures. So the Spider-Man 2 figures.
Yeah.
So it's the Peter Parker from the Spider-Man 2 game and
Yep.
the Miles from the Spider-Man 2 game. So because he really loves that game. But it was always like a weird thing where, like, he's not really playing it now, and he's like, I don't know if I can play with these. I don't play the game anymore. I'm like, you don't have to play the video game in order to like the figures and play with them. It's that doesn't go hand in hand. They're two separate things. You don't have to like love one thing and love the other. And I think, I mean, your father doing that with like the World of Warcraft stuff,
Yep.
not even playing the game and just thinking they're cool figures,
And
kind of like as a testament to that.
I'm in that same boat with the new NECA Dungeons and Dragons figures. I don't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played it, never seen the movie, never saw the cartoon. I don't know anything about it, but I know a cool figure when I see a cool figure. So that's kind of where I'm at with that in the same kind of way.
Another thing I want to do, like, do you collect any other besides like figures? Do you have like a collection of like, baseball cards, basketball cards, anything like CDs, movies?
So I had a massive CD collection that I was collecting basically since like, geez, I don't know, whenever CDs kind of came out, when they got normal, they were actually sold in stores and stuff.
Yep.
But I had a massive heavy metal collection. I'm a big heavy metal guy, and I had some extremely rare stuff, like a lot of first pressings from like Germany and Europe and things. And I had almost 12,000 CDs in my collection. And during the height of COVID, as you know, with action figures, everything collectibles exploded.
Yep.
And I got sitting down here in my room. I had a CD room, and I said, you know what? I could die from COVID. Who knows what this thing is? And I said, if I do, and then I never got COVID. I've never got it to this day for whatever reason.
Wow.
So I got to be like one of those weird people that are immune to it or something. I don't know. But I was thinking, I was like, if I die or if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I got a lot of friends that know about action figures. I got friends that know about some of the other stuff I collect, but nobody knows about, hey, this Gravedigger first pressing from Scotland, what that's kind of worth. I don't got a friend that knows the heavy metal band Gravedigger.
Yeah.
So I said, I should sell all this stuff. I have it all backed up in 4 places. I'm a big physical media guy, but I said, if something happens to me, my wife is going to take this whole collection to like half price books and say,
oh yeah,
a dime a CD or something. So I said, you know what? I'm going to sell this. And, we're all stuck at home anyway. So I sold my collection and, I made an absolute fortune on that collection.
Oh yeah. I mean, I could imagine.
It was the height of COVID and that stuff was already rare. A lot of it. I mean, and everybody's like, you sold your CDs for how much? It's like, oh geez, I got some, Britney Spears and NSYNC CDs. I'm like, no, it's not the same. Those are a dime a dozen. These are hardcore, rare stuff. So that was one. And I've always had a collectible personality, or, it's one of those things I always say. It's a good thing I'm totally straight edge. I don't drink. I don't smoke, because I'd be one of those guys on the side of the street begging for money is what would probably happen to me. So it's probably a good thing I don't do that. But like one time I owned 14 Jeeps in my collection. Like,
really?
My wife, I would just show up home and it's like, oh, hey, I picked up this 1970 postal Jeep that from a surplus auction.
What the?
Right-hand drive, and I drove it 3 hours home, and there wasn't a seat. I sat on a milk crate. Is how I drove it home. So,
oh my god,
wild stuff like that back in the day. But then we moved to a more high income place or whatever. So I was like, I can't store all these Jeeps here, and I would rotate. My grandpa lived out in the country with my grandma, and I'd rotate Jeeps, and I was like, all right, time to sell all these off. So I only got, I think, 3 Jeeps currently. So
man. Jeez, I didn't know. Do you have I mean, obviously, like, you have tons of videos on your YouTube page. Do you have a video of that collection at all, or
No,
no?
I think I have some. I have some videos. Sometimes the Jeeps will be in the background of some of like the figure hunt videos and stuff like that. So every once in a while they're in there. I have like my favorite Jeep of all time is I have a 1989 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. You know, the Wagoneer's the old wood
Oh
grain
yeah,
on the side and
yep.
stuff. It's so funny how those were everywhere at one time. Now they're never. They've all rusted apart and fallen apart. And I actually bought one from California and got it shipped here because it was
Wow.
totally rust free. And that's kind of my favorite Jeep of all time. It's like it's crazy. I absolutely love that thing. It's crazy how much value is on those Jeeps now. Is people want them for TV commercials, things like that, and advertising. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking about getting into that where I'd rent it out for like school pictures and
Why
things like
not?
that because people love the classic wood grain Wagoneer. So
Yeah.
love
No,
the picture.
definitely. Wow. The other, actually, I want to kind of go back to what you said before about like, the COVID times and stuff like that and, selling and stuff. Do you think like now, since obviously, COVID's not here anymore, that
Yeah,
period of our lives
yeah.
isn't
I'd
around
say.
anymore. Do you think, as far as like the selling part of it, do you think like values obviously have they changed? You think? Do you think they stayed
Yeah,
the same? Have they dropped drastically, or do you think they just kind of like
yeah.
evened out after
I
after
think
that
they've
time?
changed pretty hard compared to the
Yeah.
height of COVID. Things have dropped pretty good. And I say it a lot on my channel. It's like, I love to collect. I love this stuff. I don't do it for the money. And I
Yeah.
know some people try to invest. And I always say, man, that's a dangerous game if you're investing in figures to
Yeah.
make money down the line. You're way better off getting an IRA or a 401k. You'll get a better
Yep.
return on your investment all day long because
Yeah.
one thing we've seen, and it's kind of a motto on my channel, is I don't care if we're talking about Hasbro, NECA, or Mattel. They want every dollar out of your wallet, every single dollar
Yep.
you have, and they're going to find a way. And we see it right now in the Mattel Greatest Hits line. They're
Yeah.
re-releasing figures that were Grail pieces for a lot of people because you know what? They see on eBay all these sales. They say, "Huh? If we come back out with this, what can we get for it?" They'd rather have the money than the eBay people. So they see
Yep.
if there's a window things are going to get re-released, and we see it with Hasbro, we see it with NECA, we see it across the board. So one instance here coming up, it is almost the Halloween season. House of a Thousand Corpses movie, one of my favorite movies ever.
Yes.
And I sold my entire collection of NECA and real toys. I had a sweet collection of those, but they were going for such insane amounts of money. I sold them all and made out like a bandit. Well, now they're all getting re-released. So
Of course.
just gotta wait. So I'm like, I'm glad I sold that because man, they'd be not penniless or valueless, but
Yeah.
definitely would drop down. So action figures, you got to do it for the love, and I think that's a lot of the stuff. Love it because you love to display it. I kind of view it as like artwork in my house. I'm buying artwork in my house in a little bit, or at least my section of the house.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, I definitely want to ask you about that because obviously, we have those conversations sometimes on the Chick Foley show about, when we're doing figure talk and stuff like that. And, are you a mint on card? Are you, do you just open them all up? Like, how do you display these things? And obviously, there's no judgment either way.
Yeah,
But, I feel like the underlying thing sometimes, in my opinion, is, there's going to be some value at some point with these figures. And I think it's Sheena kind of convinced me because I was keeping everything mint
yeah,
on card. And like I think one of the episodes we were like way back in the day, when I was first on the show, she was just like, pretty much convinced me like, hey, what's the use that you just have it in a box? Just it's better when you display it. It's actually like when you have it in your hand, you're able to look at it, see the detail and all
yeah.
that stuff. And I was like, you know what, let me try it. So I ended up doing it and never looked back ever since. I mean, I
There's
open it.
definitely arguments both way, and I don't think either is right or wrong. And honestly, people say, "Oh, look at all these loose ones." If I had it my way, I'd be mint on card. I would do that,
Yeah,
but we all only have so much room, and for the
exactly. That's
amount of
the other
stuff
part.
I collect, I mean, I got a lot of room, more room than most people have. Obviously, it's I dedicated a wing of my house to
Yeah.
my action figures. So I got more room than a lot of people do, and I do understand that, but if they were all mint on card, I'd be like swimming. I'd be swimming through a trash heap. It would almost feel like because it'd just be impossible. But I don't know if the value outside of some pieces, the value isn't that much different between loose and mint on card. And you
Yeah.
think about some of the cost to ship, things like that kind of stuff. It's not terribly different, and obviously this takes up way less space. So I just think, and you get more enjoyment out of it when it's out of the package too. You at least touch it. There's an experience with that.
Yeah.
Nothing against mint on card, but to me, I just had to go loose because of space reasons.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And that's one of my main reasons. Like, I mean, not just because she convinced me to open
Yeah,
them all up, but it definitely is it definitely does shrink down the space that you have when you do have them all MOC. But when you
yeah,
start opening them up, you can like display them a certain way. If you have certain like like on some of the displays I have, it's like I'll have like favorite matches of mine.
yeah,
Especially if the gear is specific, like it's the actual gear of that figure and that match and stuff like
yeah,
that. I can display things that way. So like I have my own little ways of doing it, and doing that with mint on card doesn't seem like the way to do it. Plus nowadays, if you notice, they're starting to slowly get rid of the window on most of the packaging. I know, like obviously
yep,
Hasbro has pretty much went full blown into it. Now you're seeing Mattel with the new, especially with the new elites.
yep,
They're this little window now.
yeah,
So I mean, the next packaging is just going to be completely
yeah.
gone. I think they're just trying to ease everyone into the fact that these little windows are going to be gone. So
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you heard about like the new retro line, how they got the slipcase covers on those. And I guess they're getting around some of the plastic laws saying, well, this is what you store it in. It's supposed to be in there. It's not actually garbage. So
yeah,
that's a little bit of a workaround. And when Hasbro's coming back with the plastic packaging, so
yep.
it's going to be interesting to see how that all nets out. But yeah, it's interesting. It's always going to be the eternal debate though with collectors, mint on card or loose. I mean, that's kind of the way it goes.
Yeah, I know. Like in the Chick Foley group, we kind of joke around with each other, and like there's a bunch of people that do men on cars, a bunch of people that do loose, and it's not like we're not having a war with each other. We just kind of like bust each other's chops and how everything goes and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
Jordan's completely mint on card. He has nothing open, and we always like joke around that he needs to open something up at some point. And we also joke if you send him something, it could be anything inside the box because he's not going to open it, so he's
Yeah.
not going to see
That's
what it
the
is.
thing
So
too, like, the Hasbro stuff, the plastic free, how do you know? I mean, it's almost one of those things like, how do you know you even have a figure? You could just be having a box. You really don't know.
exactly, yeah. So you have to take their word for it, I guess, in
Yeah.
that
Why
sense.
don't you just buy the box? I'm sure somebody could sell you the box.
I know, definitely, right? So as far as your, how do you feel your imprint is as far as the figure community, not just the wrestling figure community? Like, do you ever look at it that way? Like you're like one of the prominent like figure collectors out there, or do you just like I'm just a regular dude that's
Yeah.
collecting stuff?
Yeah, I'm such a regular dude. I mean, I try to chat with everybody. If somebody messages me or something, I mean, I got no problems talking to people. Obviously, if I'm in a meeting or something for my job, I can't answer you right
Oh
away.
yeah.
Like, it's crazy. Some people get all worked up, like they'll send me an instant message or something on Messenger or whatever. And it's like 40 minutes went by and I haven't answered. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm in a 2.5 hour conference call. And I'm like,
Exactly.
it's like, I'll answer anybody if I can, but it's like sometimes you're stuck in things and like, oh, you're too good to respond to my message. No, I was in a meeting and I was presenting the whole time, so I can't really. Oh, hold on, guys, somebody messaged me. But I don't know. It's a weird thing because I really just think of myself as just a normal dude for the most part. I'm just a guy that collects, and I say it a lot in some of my videos too. It's not like anything I do in a review is like, here it is. This is the law. This is the way it
Yeah.
is.
Yep.
It's my opinion. And my opinion's no better than yours, no better than my dog sitting over here. We all got an opinion, and sometimes they align with people, sometimes they don't. It
Yep.
just, this is my thoughts, and that's about all it is. So I don't feel myself being better than anybody else or anything. It's a weird thing. And I don't even want to say celebrity because that sounds weird. It just seems weird all around. But I travel for work, like a pretty crazy schedule a lot, and I'm traveling, and people recognize me. It's weird. People recognize me
Yeah.
more when I travel than when they recognize me where I live, which is very strange. Um, but people like nervous to talk to you or ask for a picture even or something like that. It's like, no, man, I have no problems with any of that stuff. And hey, what's going on? And it's just a weird dynamic. It's weird. I was at San Diego Comic-Con this year. I was at PowerCon and I met a ton of people, and a ton of people came up and talked to me. I mean, it was the coolest thing ever. And I always appreciate that kind of stuff. And I'm always down to talk action figures. at the end of the day, it's a, a big stress relief from the day-to-day grind is what that is. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know it's like I think I've asked like a lot, like pretty much literally everyone on my that I've interviewed so far. I always ask like, you know, I know like influencer is kind of like a, dirty word out there, but like do you feel like you have like you're a social media influencer, if you want to say it that way? Do you, like I said, do you look at yourself like as just like, I'm just a guy, I'm passionate about what I do. I put out, I put out these videos, and then if you like them, you like them. If you don't, you don't. Is that how is
yeah, kind of. It's a weird deal. Like even with my day job, it's like, you got to kind of take a step back. And anytime you're on a platform or presenting stuff, I could be giving a speech at the local library, I could be presenting at work, I could be having a holding court at a Target store, I could be doing a
yeah.
video. I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking and you are influencing one way or the other, whether you like it or not, I guess. And there's nothing worse. Like I've had issues on the channel where I've unboxed something that is broke. And
Yeah.
obviously none of us like a figure breaking out of the package there. And like Omega Spawn from a McFarlane Toys, I had an epic meltdown. I was like, "Are you
See.
kidding me?" I threw the figure across the room. I was so worked up. And you see the power of your actions as people say, "Well, that's a garbage figure. I'm not going to buy this. Oh, don't buy the Omega Spawn." It
Yeah.
starts going around. And I said it in the video, but I mean, that's kind of how it goes. People take the meltdown moment, but they forget that I said, these things do happen. Anything that's mass produced, not everything's going to be
Yep.
perfect. There's always going to be one. And guess what? McFarlane Toys will make it right, all that kind of stuff. People don't necessarily take that kind of stuff out of it. So,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't say I watch what I say. At the end of the day, I'm just myself, right or wrong or whatever. But it is a weird medium that you can maybe influence. And you see stuff in the comments too, where I wasn't going to get this figure, but then I saw your review and I'm going to get it. And I guess if you look up dictionary, that is an influencer.
Yeah.
But I guess I wouldn't say I wear it as a tattoo on my forehead or anything. I just like to try to think of it as just one guy's opinion. And that's kind of my channel at the end of the day. That's kind of how I view my channel. I mean, it's a weird thing getting started on YouTube and doing all that kind of stuff, but that's kind of how I view it. It's just I'm a normal dude.
Yeah. I actually, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That I like your videos because it does come across that way. Like, that you're
Yeah.
just a guy. You do the unboxing. You give it your opinions, and that's pretty much it. You're not pushing anything on anybody. You're not telling them not to
No,
buy it, when to
I
buy it, how
always
to buy it.
and when I started, so here, like I said, I never looked at action figures and really in social media or anything really before I started on YouTube. I mean, the Major Pod group was about all I knew, and I'd followed
Yeah.
Zack Ryder because I knew of Zack Ryder, but I don't know how many years it took before I knew that Zack Ryder collected action figures. Started following him about action figures, and that was about it. And then I started a YouTube channel. I had a buddy, David C. Anderson is his name. He lives in.
Yeah. Yep.
So he's
The
like, dude,
mesh.
you got a heck of a collection. You should really start a YouTube channel and all this. So it was at the beginnings of COVID, basically. Did a little bit of a video there, and it just kind of snowballed into what it is now. But I never, believe it or not, I never watched any unboxings or reviews from other toy people or anything. So I was like starting from scratch, which I really feel was something good because you don't have any bad habits. You're not copying anybody. You're just being yourself. And
Yeah.
that's how I've been. And I said, okay, if
Yeah.
I
Yep.
wanted to do an action figure review, how would I do this? And I would want it like you and me sitting here talking and going through and talking about it. And like, stupid jokes that we would probably say to each other, throwing the pack. I mean, stuff. I've done that my whole life. I've always thrown the packaging when I unbox stuff. And it's just kind of weird how it kind of snowballed into what it's become, I guess. It's very weird.
So you said you started the page during the pandemic.
Yeah, I want to say, was it February or March of like 2019? I think it was. So I think it
Okay.
was right at the beginnings, maybe. I want to say,
Okay.
was that? I don't know. My timeline's off, but it was right through there. And then obviously, you're stuck at home and you got more free time, so you start doing it.
Man, yeah, because you have like a ton of subscribers too. So like, how did that like? Were you like floored at the amount of subscriptions you got from the time that you started to like, like when did you see the influx of like,
Yeah,
like
there was a
comments and
big
views and
like
stuff like that?
I didn't understand any of it, and I still don't really understand. I'm terrible with technology. Outside of my day job, I can do all that stuff, and it's like I feel like there's only so much room in my head, and I feel
Yeah,
like I can definitely do more technology stuff. But it was what my first video was just, hey, Kyle, you got a heck of a collection. You know, I'm in Facebook groups, things like that. You should show your collection. Okay, I'll just do a video. How do I upload this? Oh, it's too long to put into Facebook or whatever. Well, I guess I'll just start a YouTube channel. I'll just put it up there. So it just kind of snowballed from that, which was, very weird. I did my collection tour video, and obviously I got a lot of subscribers out of that.
Yep.
And then there was a lot of questions in the comments. So I was like, okay, I'll do a second video and answer these questions. And then, a lot of people said, boy, you should do reviews. And I said, okay. And I mean, I think you go back to your first performance on the Chick Foley Show, you probably just cringe. And I'd probably,
of course.
I saw my YouTube thing, like where I'm at. And I'm sure 10 years from now, we'll both cringe at this video. I'm sure.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You just, as I always say on my channel all the time, constant learning, constant improvement. Every single morning, get up, constant learning, constant improvement. Try that. But yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there. And, I've got a crazy work ethic I've always kind of had. And I never give up, never surrender. And I've never missed an upload, basically 3 years straight without an upload, or with an upload every single day. In the last 2 years,
wow.
I've uploaded 3 videos a day. And then I just started a brand new YouTube channel this weekend. So,
jeez, yeah. What's funny, when I spoke to my a couple ones before this, Queen G22 on Instagram. She's she collects Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, pretty much everything. Her main character that she collects is Donatello, and she's we talked about she's just starting to do a lot more content on her Instagram and stuff like that. She has like the sponsorship from like Nickelodeon and Paramount and all that stuff, and like she's getting all these things, and she's going to start up a YouTube channel, and now she's posting to her YouTube. And we talked about instead of just thinking about putting a video up, just put it up there, and just watch the progression. Like you said, it could be cringe, but as you go along, you're gonna see the process and how your videos have either gotten, hopefully they got better and not worse from the first time you did it. But you just have to do it. Just put it out there, see how it looks, and then don't take it down. Leave it up there and see that that history of how everything started. So that's actually a very good that's very good advice right there, just to do it. Just put
that's
it up.
what everybody says. Kyle, how do you do a YouTube? How do you do this? I don't have any fancy equipment. And I'm like, well, here's how the sausage is made. I got my wife's 8-year-old iPhone. That's what I film on. And then I airdrop that to an iPad and I edit it on iMovie, and there it is. So it's pretty bare bones.
Yeah, same here. I never, our rule was, especially with the Chick Foley Show, we never, if you listen to any of the old episodes, there's always stuff in it. We never went into editing or taking things out, none of that stuff. But now I find myself, doing this show along with the Chick Foley Show now, and finding myself that I not need to edit things out, but if I hear like a silence and something, if I'm listening back, I'll kind of cut that. If I'm learning to edit music in between stuff, because with YouTube you can't really put any licensed music up because they'll take your video down. So a lot of these videos that I'm going to start uploading won't have a intro song or an outro song. It'll just be the video itself. So I'm learning that stuff. But yeah, it's like you said, it's pretty bare bones. It's I do my own thing.
I'm very fortunate too, as I speak for a living every single day. So I give speeches all the time in front of 1,000 people, 250, whatever it may be. So I'm used to talking, and I luckily don't really mess up very often. So I don't have to edit a whole lot. The only editing I'm doing is pasting in pictures and videos and things like that. I'm not having to take this chunk out and move things around. That definitely saves some time, not having to do all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, that's our our number one rule. We don't take anything out. If it's like I said, we'll add the intro and outro music, and that's pretty much it. I do the same thing for the on the audio version. I'll do the intro music, outro music, and that's all I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna go in and change anything if we say something unless you go back and say, hey, I said this, can you take it out? I'll do it for you. I'm not that type of person. But yeah, no, I definitely, with the shoot work and everything, or my actual job, I usually don't have the time to do that type of stuff. So, yeah, I'm not going to edit. I'm telling you now, I'm not editing. No, I'm joking.
That's one thing I get all the time too, is people say, well, I don't have the equipment, or I don't have, the time. I work, 40 hours a week. And I'm like, man, I work 70 hours a week at my job. I Sundays I film the lion's share of my stuff on Sundays, and I usually
Yep.
film for about 12 to 15 hours straight every single Sunday, and that's my videos for the week.
Wow.
So I just go bam, 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 get up extremely early, and just get after it. That's what you got to
That's
do.
insane. That's what
Put in
I
the work.
was actually. Go ahead.
Yeah, you just got to put in the work.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of you know, a lot of the turnbuckle guys are starting to do a lot of things on Sundays because during some people like doing things during the week as far as content and stuff like that because it's a work week. You're already in the
Yeah.
mode to do things. But sometimes it's hard to do that because sometimes after work,
Oh, yeah.
like me, I might have it. I think I'll probably have an interview sometime this week. I try to do them on Sundays, but if it has to be moved during the week, I might not be fully into the into the interview at all. So I try to do it on Sunday nights because it's it's the end of the week. It's it's nice, quiet, it's relaxing.
Yep.
There's no pressure at all. Just the beginning of the work week's fine. But when you're in the middle of it and you're going and you might have a bad week, you might have a bad work day, and then you got to do something at night, it's usually not the best thing. So yeah, I could it's so doing it on Sundays is probably the best. I mean all around anyway, for me anyway, and a lot of other people out there, I
Yeah.
would say. My next question for you, this is totally off topic. The hair. So, there's only one other person I know that has great hair like you, and that's AJ Styles. Only because my wife is like, she watches wrestling with me sometimes, and she just like is enamored with AJ Styles' hair routine. How do you give us is there a secret?
It's
Can you give it
weird.
away? If not, that's fine.
I have always wanted to have my hair long once in my life. I said, before I go gray, I want to have it long hair. And COVID was the perfect opportunity. I said, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be in. I was already due for a haircut. COVID hit. And I said, all right, I don't have to go through the awkward stages of growth in front of people. And I haven't looked back. And it's weird. I'm in an industry where beards and long hair are awfully frowned on. And
Yeah.
I've kind of changed perspectives of people. So it's really became a calling card for me in a lot of ways, which
Yeah.
is crazy. And a lot of people, I do get that all the time is, did you know, anybody ever tell you look like AJ Styles? And then I've also got, does anybody ever tell you look like the Big Show? You look like the Big Show. And
Oh yeah, I could
I
see
get
that.
those
All
too
right.
all the time. And I get weird ones too, like Marty Jannetty. Every once in a while, you look like Marty Jannetty. I'm like,
Okay.
has Marty Jannetty ever had facial hair? I've never seen him with facial
I don't
hair.
think so. Not that I can recall anyway.
It's wild.
He'd probably say otherwise in one
You
of
know
his
how it goes.
crazy
Don't they
stories.
call you Daniel Cormier, I think, or
Yes, they do. Yeah, I get that. I get that all the time. I get
yeah.
at first it was my my wife's um friend's husband. The very first time I met him, he's the very first person that said it to me, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But then after, like, yeah, my wife would say like, oh, hey, I was working with somebody and they said you look like him, and then we went to dinner one time, and then after we went for a drink at this bar, and the guy at the door, the security guy, thought I was Daniel Cormier. Then I was at a liquor store once, and the guy one guy, he's like, I don't want to say this to you. And I was like, go ahead, say it. He's like, did anyone tell you look like Daniel Cormier? I was like, yeah, I get it. I get it all the
Yeah,
time.
earlier
So
10 times today.
but yeah, no, it's I was like I said, we watch wrestling together, me and my wife, she's always enamored with like how great AJ Styles hair is. Like, I'm like, I know a guy. I know a guy that you could probably speak to and ask about his hair routine if you want to.
Yeah.
You want to
I
figure it
get
out.
some help from my wife. I don't know anything. I'm so clueless on that stuff. So she buys me whatever shampoo I need and conditioner I need and stuff like that. I try to put it in a ponytail every once in a while or a man bun, and I cannot figure that out. I can't do it behind my head. It's funny.
Jeez.
But who
Oh
knows?
man. Um so what what motivates you to do this, to continue collecting and going on
Yeah,
and
it's weird. We all hit our end, and I don't know when that's going to
yeah.
be because I got to remember that on the back end of this, I got to get rid of all this one of these days. And I got
Yeah.
two daughters, and my daughters aren't too interested in action figures.
Yeah.
So I figure when I do retire, I'll probably end up spending a couple of years probably selling this stuff as kind of a side hustle, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it. I just love everything about it. I love the news that comes from here's what's coming up. I love the business side of things. I love getting them in the mail. I love opening them. I love reviewing them. I love displaying. I mean, there's so much fun along the way each time. Um, I don't know. It's just wild. So yeah, it's definitely a passion. It's definitely not something I'm doing um, to make $1 million in or anything like
Yeah.
that. It's a lost leader, I think is what they call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a passion thing, and it's a stress relief and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a lot of fun. It really is
Yeah.
what it is.
It's definitely a lot more spending than it is making money
Yeah.
off of
Oh,
with collecting anyway.
hold
Oh
on.
boy.
Oh, I got my
Maybe
dog.
maybe
My
do
dog's just
you
going
your
crazy.
dog does not agree with that. Okay. Well
He
we'll
didn't
move
agree to
on.
that comment right there.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was
Um
wild. It was my wife. My wife's here. Hey, good to see you, Angie. She's good plugging my phone or my computer in for me. There you
there
go.
you go. That's perfect. Did you so for um do you ever get contacted by any like any of the companies like the Mattels, the
Yeah,
Hasbros, the Jazzwares of the world, or are you like friendly with any of the
yeah.
the people out
It's
there?
weird. It's weird. Like, I do a toy news video every single week and I kind of give my business thoughts on stuff. And, I'm in business for a major company. And I always say you could be selling food products, you could be selling shirts, you could be selling hammers, you could be selling action figures. If you're dealing with Amazon, Target, Walmart, it all relates. It all
Yeah.
correlates. A lot of the same rules apply. So I've been in the trenches. I've been in Bentonville, Arkansas, dealing with Walmart buyers firsthand. I've done Target
Mm.
up in Minneapolis. Like I've called on these companies and stuff. So I understand the plight of Steve from Mattel or maybe Ryan at Hasbro or whoever.
Yep.
Look at me just name dropping people. But
Yeah, I know, right?
I understand the plight of those guys. And I do feel bad about those guys too, because I know in my job, I make a lot of decisions like they do. But I don't have
Yeah.
people on message boards saying, "Oh, can you believe Kyle made that new item and he put a 12 pack instead of a 10 pack? What's he doing?" And
Yeah.
they get flamed all the time, and they would love to fight back on that kind of stuff, but they just can't. They're stuck.
Okay.
So they can't. They're stuck, and they can't fight back and say, "Well, this is why we did this. This is why we did that." So very crazy relation there. But yeah, I've talked to a lot of those guys and stuff at a lot of these companies. I've seen them at Power Cons, San Diego Comic Cons of the world. It's just definitely interesting seeing those guys and talking to them, and you've seen them around for a long time to be able to talk to them and converse with them. It's definitely a little interesting.
Yeah. Do they ever like ask about any of your like any of the videos you put out and stuff like that? Do they ever contact you directly and say, like, what the heck are you doing? Or,
Yeah, it's
or
kind of
hey, that's a
funny.
great idea.
And a lot of stuff's off the record with a lot of these guys, on things. So we'll have off the record discussions about stuff, and I'm not gonna put the stuff out there. But I've had it before where I've had issues with figures, where the figure didn't work out quite, and then they sent me a message saying, "Well, you did this wrong," and then I have to explain myself. I said, "Well, I'm not new at opening figures. I understand how these things work and should work." So
Yeah.
I've had some interesting conversations, and I've got some friends that design some of these things as well for properties outside of wrestling, I guess. And I've definitely given my 2 cents, and I like to feel that I've made a difference on some things that I'm very passionate about, I guess I could say. So it's a pretty fun little circle there, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Steve's action figure attack for those
Yeah,
that don't know. Great follower of the Chick Foley Twitter account. And he's a good dude. He's
yeah,
been on multiple episodes of Fig Night on the Turnbuckle Tavern too,
yeah.
giving out some tidbits and things like that. He's a really great guy. Have you ever met Jeremy
Oh, so
Bedauer?
I met Steve, and Steve is one of the best guys ever. He is one of the best guys in the action figure community game, whatever you want to call it. I mean, he works for Mattel, but I always say it, we're so lucky that he's a real collector, and that's the difference from the 80s and 90s, where these were just jobs to people. They had a job working for a toy company. Steve, Bill McKenna, a lot of these people like that. Ryan Ting over there at Hasbro, a lot of those guys, they're passionate about this stuff. They actually would collect this if they worked there or not. And that's something very cool. And Jeremy Padower, I'm a weird dude. Like, I don't have a lot of bucket list people I want to meet, but like Jeremy Padower, ever since Classic Superstar Series 1, he has been on my bucket list. Like, I want to meet Jeremy. How do I meet Jeremy? And I finally got that instance. And Jeremy and I talked for about a half hour. And just an awesome guy. I love Jeremy. I'm a big fan of what he's done forever. I followed him forever. you know, it was fun to get to tell how much, hey, Jeremy, this is how much you mean to me and stuff. And, you know,
Yeah.
put a face with a name. He'd heard of me, but didn't know me kind of thing. And now we're definitely, you know, we're buddies now and stuff. And we might even have a project in the works together. We'll see what happens with that. So
Oh.
peek under the tent there. So stay tuned to that in the future.
Ah, could we be getting some Kyle figures
Yeah,
at
you
some
never
point?
know. You never know what might be happening. That would be pretty cool. But I don't think anybody
Hmm.
buy those. I might be able to sell my dad one, maybe if he could get one for free. Maybe I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely surreal to be able to talk to Jeremy about some stuff too, and just how, you know, a lot of these guys from these companies is such a cool thing, and then just people that aren't even into toys, like, you know, even like Cody Rhodes, like good friend of the channel, Cody Rhodes. That's not a joke. That's a real deal. And
Really?
Cody, I mean, man,
Wow.
more to come on that in the future. I'm like dropping all these things in the future, more to
Jeez.
come. But Cody's an amazing dude, that's for sure. I mean, he from everything I know, he's quite the guy. And like I said, more to come in the future on that one. So stay tuned.
Wow. I'm like super jealous because I'm a Cody Rhodes. Again, if you listen to the Chick Foley Show, I'm a Cody Rhodes fanatic. The
Yeah,
only one on the show.
he's
Um,
he's a big He-Man guy, and that's kind of how our friendship started there. Is you know, the
huh.
Eternia crowd fund there, and you know, reached out, and we've conversed ever since that. And yeah, just a really good guy. You know, he tags me and stuff whenever he does figure stuff on social media. He always tags me and that kind of stuff, which is always fun. And
Oh, that's awesome.
just cool. And like David Arquette reaching out, like, hey, I watch your videos every night, man. I just want to say you're doing a good job. Like
Wow.
weird stuff like that every once in a while. And you know, I was talking about that Jeff George earlier. He's in We Are Harlot and
Yeah.
musician, a lot of stuff. And I mean, we've become quite good friends here. I mean, we're just texting before this, and I mean, an awesome guy. And we got a big plans, and we got a lot of stuff coming up here in the soon together. We're going to be on some travel and some whirlwind tours. So I got a lot of stuff in the pipeline, and it's crazy the opportunities that come. One shout out to the band Night Demon. I'm a big heavy metal guy. Night Demon, one of my favorite bands. They've been around for, I don't know, about 10 years now. I mean, I've become friends with those guys kind of through my channel, and they actually made theme music for my channel for me, which just
Oh,
like,
wow.
how wild is that? A band that you absolutely love and have toured and followed around and very passionate about, that would take the time to do that for you. I mean, just absolutely wild. Very, you got to pinch yourself sometimes.
That's crazy. Yeah, man. I'm still railing about the Cody thing. He retweeted. It was a while back. I think Sheena was doing a unboxing of it was one of his figures. I forget what figure it was. Um, and we went on Twitter. I run the Twitter account, so posted the video for her, stuff like that. Um, and it was like on a Sunday, I remember. And we're just like, I just posted it, whatever. He ended up retweeting it and commenting on it, like, hey, he's like, oh, basically he mentioned it. He's like, I don't know why I'm doing, because the funny thing is, like, like I said, if you listen to the show, Sheena and Seth, not the biggest fans of Cody,
Yeah.
but it was just funny that her doing the unboxing of the figure, and then he ends up doing the retweet, pretty much putting us over in the sense with the video, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I was
He's a good dude. He's a really good dude, down to earth, that's for sure. Which, you know, you don't have to be if you're in that position.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, you could definitely tell the way he comes across on, the interviews that he does, and even on, even in ring, and when he's cutting his promos and stuff like that. You can
Yeah,
obviously, he has the intensity and stuff, but you can tell the walk to the ring when he's, he hands his belt off to, to a kid or something like that. You can tell he's, genuine in that sense, and he really takes in the fans and stuff like that. So
yeah, for sure.
hopefully, hopefully, yeah. I'm like very curious on what you have cooking up there. This is
Yeah, we'll
I
see.
always I always get these weird tidbits. Like I had Extra Cooler on a while back, and he talked about some things that came down. He had coming down the pipeline, and ended up being the FTR stuff that he had going on, and the Matt Cardona, the Indie God stuff that he designed with Matt Cardona. Um, and he also revealed that, I didn't even know this. He was the idea behind the Ecto Cooler drink, which is kind of crazy.
I've heard that somewhere through. I don't know if I listened to that episode, or I think I probably
Yeah,
did. That's probably where I heard that. But yeah,
yeah,
I thought he was joking at first.
yeah.
But
No, his uncle worked for High C at the time, and
yeah,
he came to him as a kid and said, "Hey, the Ghostbusters, they're looking for a movie crossover, and they're looking for, here's a bunch of names. what do you think? And he picked the Ecto Cooler one, and
It's a good choice.
the rest
Damn.
is it. I was like, holy crap! I was like, I don't think I ever heard that story because
Yeah.
I felt like it's been said already, but I never heard that. And my
If you're
buddy
of my
Jay,
generation, you know all about that. You know what that is. You can
oh
picture it
yeah,
immediately.
yep, yeah, my buddy Jay, who I spoke about earlier, huge Ghostbusters fan. In his house, in his basement, he has a whole room all Ghostbuster. He's a huge collector as well, but
Yeah.
like he literally has a whole room Ghostbusters, everything. Nothing new. He hasn't really like the newer stuff that they
Yeah.
released. All vintage, all old school, everything.
That's
So
wild.
when I told him that story, he was like, "What the hell?" He was like, "Get out of here," because he's like the biggest fanatic in the world when it comes to that stuff. Do you have? I should just ask you. Do you have a Ghostbusters collection or any Ghostbuster figures in your collection at all?
When I was a kid, I collected the old Kenner Ghostbusters back in the day, the
Okay.
firehouse, all that stuff. Had all that. I did buy, just for nostalgia reasons, I bought those re-releases that went to Walmart a couple of years ago. So I do
Yes.
like
Yep.
that. I obviously got the Mattel Elite Ghostbuster crossover figures. And I think that's all I really have in my collection. I mean, I definitely loved Ghostbusters. I'm actually maybe one of the weird ones, maybe not, but I always enjoyed the cartoon more than the movies. I like the
Okay.
movies, but I like the cartoon a little bit more. So,
Yeah, I think no, that makes sense because a lot of the toys and
toys
stuff
for,
came from the cartoons and stuff like
yeah.
that, not really from the movies themselves. So yeah, no, I could definitely see the transition there. Do you um as far as like I said, you pretty much collect everything. Um, is there a favorite thing that you collect out of your I know it's probably hard to even
Yeah.
even ask, but like, is there like something that you love collecting more than anything else in your toy collection?
It's always special when I get I mean, I have a complete Jack's Classic Superstars collection, and like a year or 2 years ago, what is time, as I say?
Yep.
I'm not sure exactly when, but I bought a second collection to unbox and have a loose set and a mint one. And I'm still trying to track down some of those Grail pieces. Like I'm missing a 1 of 100 Hulk Hogan. So, I mean, it's fun
Okay.
to kind of be clocking that, looking for that. Recently, in the last year, I got 3 of the 1 of 20 Ultimate Warriors from those. And obviously,
Wow.
those are very rare. There's only 20 of them in the world. And so
Super rare.
that is like really fun. And that kind of gets your blood pumping and the adrenaline flowing when you're picking up something
Wow.
like that. But I love the G.I. Joe classified line. G.I. Joe
Mhm.
is like that. That and wrestling were my 2 favorite properties as a kid, still pretty much are. So the G.I. Joe classified is very fun and nostalgic. It's kind of, I always say it's like my GI Joes when I played with as a kid of how I imagined them, and now I'm
Yeah.
getting like how they are. So that's really fun. So I enjoy everything, and I always say I'm not buying stuff to unbox or do it if I don't like it and enjoy it. I mean, I'm not buying stuff to not like it. So sometimes
uh,
people say, "Oh, you're too
True.
positive." Well, I'm not going to buy something I don't like. It's just not going to happen.
Oh, exactly. So as far as like the I don't want to say if it's I'm not saying it's a boom, maybe it maybe is for the older generation of toys like the retros and now LJNs and obviously the major bros with the bendies and stuff like that. Do you see that like that latching on? Do you see like a Mattel start like do you think they'll dip back into the bendies or do you think they'll dip back into like the BCAs
Uh,
at some point? Do you see like any type of any
I
resurgent
just
in older type of
yeah.
figures?
I really don't. I mean, I
No.
can't see that like the Titantrons coming back or something like that. I mean, anything is possible,
Yeah.
but collecting is so weird because I always try to think about it too. If you go to like an antique store, and I'm sure your antique store is no different than mine. You go in there and there's a bunch of like milk jugs, and then there's like
Yep.
fine china, and then there's
Yep.
old dresses and weird stuff. It's weird to us. But it's not weird to people that are 40 years older than us that collected that at one time.
Exactly.
And to me, that stuff's absolutely worthless. And I try to remember in the back of my
Mhm.
head, a lot of this stuff in the future could very well be that same kind of thing.
Yep.
It's a weird kind of deal because we're in a nostalgia period right now for kids of the 80s and 90s generations. But I think of people and kids my kids' age, being in the,
Yeah.
I have an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old, And I don't know if they'll have the same nostalgia in the future. And they definitely don't have the nostalgia about our properties. I mean, there's always
Yeah.
going to be some kids that their dad got them onto Ghostbusters or
Yep.
whatever. But like a Mattel retro or an LJN figure for a 9-year-old kid, they're like, "Oh, that's cool for 2 seconds. Give me that Ultimate figure that has all this articulation that I can
Yeah.
play out." Or will they even play with toys at all at that point? Who knows? And it does make you wonder, like, what's going to happen. 40 years from now, you want to sell your LJNs. Well, the market's pretty slim for people that want that stuff then. So I don't know.
Yeah.
A weird thing to think about a little bit sometimes. That's
Yeah.
why I say never invest for money purposes in action figures, unless you really have to, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, with the I kind of like the fact that the we have like new LJNs. Obviously AEW,
Yeah,
they have their LJNs, and then the Major Bros have their LJNs and stuff like that. So I do like that niche type of collecting, because you kind of seen it with I can't even talk with
yeah.
retros. A lot of companies are starting to do different retro figures and things like that. So my thought is, if it catches on, like the LJNs, AEW's doing LJNs. Do you think WWE might bring it back at some point, or some type of, because they did it with the Jax Classic, or the Jax line anyway back in the day.
I think the
Um,
closest we're kind of getting from Mattel is the Coliseum collection. It's like kind of
true,
giving that
true.
LJN niche, but giving updated stuff because
Mm,
even the retros, I guarantee, and I don't know anything, but I just feel like they're only sold on Mattel Creations. That tells you they
yes.
don't feel it's viable for Walmart or Target,
Yep.
Walmart, Amazon, whoever won't take them. So they're definitely limited edition. I'm sure they're not produced in the quantities of elites. And it's just the fandom isn't quite there for whatever reason. I mean, and I think a lot of
Yep.
it is a younger collector. They've moved on. I mean, when I was a kid in Hasbro's, it felt like the game was changed. I was used to these LJNs that didn't move. Now an arm moves, a head moves. I can't believe it doesn't get better than this. It's kind of like video games, like, oh my gosh, did you see the graphics on this new Nintendo game? It's amazing. And then nowadays it's like night and day from that stuff. And
Oh yeah, definitely.
and I
That's
think time marches on and things change. And I think it's tough to get. There's always going to be some kids out there, but it's tough to get that nostalgia bug if you didn't live it.
yeah, definitely. I have another question for you. We'll stay on the Mattel create. Well, not really that, but like as far as like crowd funding, do you see that do you see that coming back at all? Do you see a different strategy going into, we don't have to go into the,
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
that happened, but like, do you see where it failed and where it can, you know,
yeah.
where it can
It's tough.
improve?
It is so tough, and I always say it's kind of the vocal minority is what we see on the internet, and it's not just
Yep.
toys; it's about anything in the world. But so
Yeah,
many
exactly.
people are so down on things immediately. They're wanting to poke holes in it, and everybody's got their opinion, and nobody's opinion is better than anybody else's. But it seems like almost every crowdfund from the beginning, people are against it. It's like, oh,
Yep.
we're rooting against it. And as we're filming this right now, the Cat Slayer from Super 7 ends tonight. So
Yep.
there's another crowdfunding one. And it's an interesting dynamic. Obviously, there's always continuous learning, continuous improvement, constant learning from these things. And I'm sure Mattel, they got a whole war chest of notes and things. Hasbro has really struggled with some stuff lately. And
Yep.
I think it's a little bit of the changing of the guards with price increases, not just toys, but across the board. Whenever
Yep.
there's big price increases like we've had the last couple of years, it takes the consumer about another couple of years to get to the understanding of the price point. Yeah,
Yep.
guess what? Your eggs aren't $1.50 anymore; they're $3, and it
Yeah.
just takes a couple of years to get used to that $3 price point. And I think we're still, and maybe we're coming out of the back end of it. Maybe we'll see, but we're still in a weird thing where people don't see the value the companies are trying to give, saying that cost X. They say, no, it should be $50, $100 cheaper. Well, they got the old mentality still of how things cost.
Yeah.
And I always say it at work, in my day job, and I say it on my channel is Mattel, Hasbro, all these companies, they're not looking for to break even. They're not looking to lose money. They've
Yep.
got to show profits on this stuff. They've got
Yep.
to show some
Exactly.
profits to get it through. And guess what? They got a heck of an overhead at Mattel. They got people, employees, 401ks, company cars, benefits, buildings,
Yep.
putting lights on. They got to turn a lot of stuff. And these crowdfunding things, these are bare minimum quantities because let's say it's 10,000 units for something like that. Well, an average Barbie is produced in 100,000 units and plus. So
Yep.
that's another thing. So these crowdfunders are giving hardcore fans, if it's wrestling, Hot Wheels, Marvel Legends, whatever it is, a chance to get something they normally wouldn't get. Now, if Toys R Us, of course, was still around, maybe some of that stuff could go to Toys R Us, but
Yep.
it's a weird dynamic right now. And I don't know if we need another year or so for prices to kind of really compute in everybody's head. And everybody will always complain about prices, but there's a lot of those costs. And I see it every single day that it just doesn't seem like it should be, but it is. And
Yeah.
I know employees in factories and shipping and everything has gotten so much more expensive. And people forget about that a lot of time, that there's a lot more that goes into a price of any item than what it seems like on the surface.
Yeah. And you have also with Jazzwares, they're going to be launching the Vault.
Yeah.
What is it, next year? I believe so. I mean, I'm not sure if they're going to be doing any crowdfunding type of things, but I think it's safe for safe for the collector that wants to just you don't have to go out and buy anything. You don't have to like actually fig hunt to do anything. You can actually just go there and do it, and it kind of saves face for those lines that aren't gonna sell, like you kind of said, like the retro line
Yeah.
probably wouldn't sell in stores greatly. With Jazzwares, with the ROH line that they're launching. Um, I was kind of scared that they're gonna do it in store, go to a Walmart or something like that. And no one's gonna run to a Walmart or buy an ROH figure.
Yeah.
So I was hoping it was going to be on like ringside, for instance, like it would be like a ringside exclusive line, which would have been pretty
Yeah.
cool. But obviously they're launching their website and it's going to live on there. So I mean,
Yeah, and
it is safe in that sense.
all these companies are hoping for the day they can cut out the Amazons, Targets, WalMarts, and probably even
Yep.
Ringside. How do I cut out the middleman and go straight to direct to consumer? Because then I keep
Yep.
more of my profits. And I think that's
Exactly.
what Jazzwares is doing. And I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, it's not called the AEW Jazzwares Vault. I think it's just called the
Yeah.
Vault thing.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be shocked to see limited edition Squishmallows up there, Pokemon
Yep.
stuff eventually, and they're going to go direct to consumer on some of that stuff and take more of the internal profit. So it makes a lot of sense. A lot of companies are hoping for that day, and that's why you see so many exclusives at Walmart and Target, because Target wants an exclusive of Martha Stewart or whatever it is,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
something that Walmart doesn't have that's going to bring people in, and hopefully while they're here, guess what? They pick up a gallon of milk, they get a pizza, they get some other stuff when they're here. So
Yep. Yeah, no, definitely. So as far as just to pivot a little bit, you said you're a parent, two daughters. How do you balance the what you do here and being a father? Because I mean it's hard for
yeah.
me anyway, but
Yeah, my
you just
kids,
do it.
my kids, I have two girls, so they're not as into this as maybe some others. If they were maybe boys of that same age, they might be all in here. I might be doing father son reviews and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I'd be spending a heck of a lot more money because I'd be like, okay, you want wrestling too? All right, we're buying two of everything. I guess is what we would do, but it's an interesting balance. I got it. My wife is a saint. I can't say a good enough stuff about her.
Yeah.
Puts up with three kids really at the end of the day. Is I'm kind of a big kid in a lot of ways, and she stays home from work, so that definitely helps out. So I work, and then she takes the kids to and fro, and really deals with their schedules. I mean, you hate to say that's her job, but she kind of deals with all that. She knows the
Yeah.
calendars and where they got to go and what time and all that. Definitely a lifesaver, because if I had to add that onto my plate, it would be tough. But my daughters, we have a ton of fun. We do stuff. They're in a lot of my videos and things, but they're also at the age too where I don't need to change diapers. I don't have to
Yep.
wait on them hand and foot. So if they want to make a sandwich, they could probably make a sandwich. They could make some toast if they need to, but it's a lot easier than it would have been 8 years ago, and the smallest one was 1 year old. I probably wouldn't have had the
Yeah.
time for all this kind of stuff, but they're getting older, and that's just the way it seems like kids get older every single day, I guess. I don't know. So eventually they're not even going to want to talk to me for a couple of years, I'm sure. We'll see how that goes. But I did have a funny thing the other day that my daughter went to her friend's house, and her friends were actually watching my video, not knowing it was me.
That's
Like, how weird is that? And I've had that a couple of instances before where people like knew of me, but didn't, like, for work. I went and had to call on a customer one time, and I walked into this customer's office, and he's like, wait, Kyle Peterson, what are you doing here? He didn't know his meeting was with me. He's from YouTube. So it's very surreal on stuff like that.
That's funny. That was actually gonna be your next question. Like with your daughters, how do they feel seeing their dad on YouTube? Like you might show up in a like a suggestion
Yeah.
type thing on the side of one of the videos that they're watching.
It's pretty funny. It's and my daughter is really shy, and she never, like, tells people these kind of things or
Yeah.
anything like that. Like, she went to, her friend's house, and her friend's dad is a huge heavy metal guy. He's got, like, all these Maiden posters everywhere, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Did you tell him you've seen Iron Maiden 3 times?" She's like, "No, I didn't." I was like, "He'd probably think that's pretty cool that a 12-year-old girl's seen Iron Maiden 3 times." But stuff like that is pretty funny, and you never know. Like, I've had instances where, like, going to a wrestling show, the Wrestling Revolver, which is Sammy Callahan's promotion. He runs
Yep.
shows here all the time. Moxley's there and all these guys all the time, and I'll go to those shows and I get recognized at those shows a lot. Obviously, that's kind of the fan base. There's a lot of correlation there.
Yeah.
And I'll take a lot of pictures and I'll even sign autographs. There was this cute little
That's
kid
awesome.
that came up to me at the last show, maybe 4 or 5 years old. And his dad said he wanted a picture with me and an autograph. And I autographed his poster, which is weird. And I'm looking at my handwriting. In 10 years, he's not going to know what this says. I don't even know what it says. I need to work on my signature. But my kids were like, they could not believe this. Like, this was real. They're like, do you know them? I'm like, no, they just watch the channel. And so it's very weird to them. I don't think they totally understand it sometimes.
That's great.
I'm not Mr. Beast. And if you're not Mr. Beast, you're nothing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's another that's another
That's
whole
another
level of
stratosphere.
yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, the only I think the only figure community like people I have an autograph from is from the fully posable guys. Which are, I think they sent me a poster once. They did like a meetup a few years back at one of the I think what WrestleMania was. And
Yeah.
they were doing like a giveaway, and they ended up we ended up like communicating stuff like that and going back and forth, and they ended up like, hey, you want an autograph? I was like, yeah, fine, I'll take one, whatever.
They're good
But
guys. I sat with them at WrestleMania this year.
oh really? Awesome.
Yeah, talk to them. They're good Oakland A's fans like me. They're good brothers out there. They love their heavy metal too. So shout out to those guys.
So that's actually, you just brought me into my next question. Other interests besides collecting and wrestling and all that stuff. Like obviously, I'm assuming baseball.
Yeah, I like a
What
little bit. Not as much as I used to. I was a kid in the 80s, 90s. Oh man, the Oakland A's team with Canseco, McGuire, Ricky Henderson. I mean, that was the glory years. So
Yep.
But yeah, outside of that, I mean, gosh, I'm doing my YouTube stuff, and then I work a pretty hectic, crazy job, so I'm dealing with that all the time. And you got to have a passion for that, I guess, a little bit.
Yep.
We all curse our day jobs from time to time, but I do get a lot of fulfillment out of that. So I got that, and then dinner and stuff with the wife and kids, and doing usual dad stuff, running around. But yeah, outside of that, heavy metal, I love music. I love a lot of that kind of stuff. I wish I had more time to play guitar. I used to play guitar a lot. I don't play as much as I used to. When I retire, that's something I'm definitely going to get back into. There's, I got a whole list of stuff I want to do when I retire. Hopefully it hits that day one day. But heavy metal shows, I love good concerts. And especially my earlier years when I used to travel for work, like constantly, I was going to like a heavy metal show almost every night. So
Wow.
I see a ton of shows, and I still try to as much as possible. So that's probably my biggest passion out of all action figures and stuff, is this kind of music and heavy metal shows and stuff. Play with my dogs too. Have a lot of fun with them. So
What about what do you think? What do you see as the future of your branding? Of
I guess you never know. I mean, I just kind of take it one day at a time. Like I said earlier, I got like 6 pretty wild things in the works right now. Like, I would love to sit here and talk about all of it. I'm just going to give people a tip. I'll just say you got to subscribe to my channel and stuff to find out the answers as they come. But one of them was the second YouTube channel I just started this weekend here. So that was kind of the first domino to fall. But there's a lot of other stuff coming, and I don't know. It would be very cool to do this as a full-time job. I just don't ever see that. I don't see I'll ever be able to give up my current full-time job as much as I may want to.
Yeah.
I don't know. You never know. You never know. But, especially right at the beginning, there was some crazy. I mean, I could talk about this. I've talked about it before, but I had a couple of TV interviews for like TV shows. Like,
Yeah.
people reached out and said, "Hey, we want you to do screen tests and stuff like that." And I did like 7 screen tests for home and garden TV, HGTV.
Wow.
And there was a show called Everything But the House. You can Google it or whatever, but it was kind of like a Pawn Stars type show. I mean, we're all familiar with Pawn Stars,
Yep.
but it was like let's say Marco's moving away, you're retiring and you're going to Florida and you got to sell everything in your house, and they call in a team of experts and they wanted to know if I wanted to interview for the action figure expert. So, some episodes, if there was a bunch of action figures, I'd come in and say, "Oh, this is it, this goes with this," and then they do a big auction at the end of the episode or whatever, and then they get their money and all that, and everybody does their thing. And so I had a lot of screen tests for that. I obviously didn't get the job, and then actually the series never went in because that was COVID, was really took off at that time. They had like 6 episodes filmed and then it never came back. But so things like that. There's been a few other ones of those kind of opportunities that have come up. I mean, it would be a very cool thing. I would love to grab my buddy Jeff George, mentioned him a couple times. Him and I go and hit the road. We go to toy stores, we do stuff. I mean, that would be quite the show. But it'd be cool to do something like that one day. I don't know if that is possible anymore.
Yeah.
So much stuff has changed. I think it's in this reality, you do it yourself and you see what happens from that. So
yep.
You start your own YouTube channel and your own YouTube show, and you do that and see where it goes from there. That kind of stuff's changing. But, I just hopefully I just having fun. As long as I'm having fun, I'll do it. If it ever becomes a job or it feels like a job that's like wearing at me, or, oh my gosh, you better do this. That's when it's probably time to call it quits. But right now, having a lot of fun, just taking every opportunity as they come and seeing what happens. It's very surreal in a lot of ways. That's for sure.
No, that's awesome. Last question, always before I let everyone go. I always ask them this. Wrestling, obviously, because this is what brings everyone together. That I mean, for the most part, not everybody that I do interviews with, there's some type of wrestling connection. Some people aren't into wrestling, so I don't ask this question. But since you are, I'm going to ask you this question. So you have somebody that's not, they're on the fence about getting into pro wrestling. They're not, why are you watching that? That stuff's it's crazy. I don't really get it. What match do you show that person that's going to instantly draw them in and become a fan right on the spot?
Oof, that's a really tough one. Ultimate Warrior is my all-time favorite. I don't know if I'd go with something Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
I'd probably honestly go with something of Terry Funk's is probably who it would go.
Okay.
Because man, Terry Funk is another all-time favorite of mine. I got some history with Terry Funk, working with him over the years a couple of different times, and definitely obviously recently passed away. So I definitely been thinking about Terry Funk more than ever. And man, just an amazing guy in so many levels, and to actually spend time with your hero. He's been my favorite since 1989 with the I Quit match with Ric Flair. So that probably would be the match I would show. And, Terry is probably the most versatile performer of all time. I mean, go to garbage wrestling, extreme wrestling, comedy wrestling, straight wrestling. He's done it all and did it all. So it would probably have to be something Terry Funk, and I'd probably lean towards that I Quit match because it's a little bit of everything in that match. There is some hardcore spots. There's traditional wrestling. It's quite the story along the way. It's just that's probably where I'd go, just off the top of my head at least.
Awesome. Yeah, I bet Terry Funk at oh man, what WrestleMania was that? Was it WrestleMania 29?
Yeah.
I want to say maybe at a signing at one of the WWE fan things. And I actually bought I remember I went to WrestleCon and there was this dude selling like a bunch of DVDs, and he sold I bought the IWA, the deathmatch tournament one there. And so thinking nothing of it. I go back to the hotel room, I open it up, and the dude printed like laminated tickets for it, like the actual ticket. It wasn't the actual ticket, but it was like he printed like laminated versions of it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. So when we went to the signing, I actually had him sign the ticket.
That's pretty cool.
And he had like a quick conversation, and he's like, "Oh man," he's like, "Man, I used to run through Tokyo and Japan, and me and Cactus, and he was a really you could tell he's like a genuinely like nice guy. Like he would like you spark a conversation, he's gonna kind of talk to you about it, which was pretty cool.
I spent a whole weekend with Terry Funk as his handler and working with him and kind
Oh,
of,
that's sick.
I mean, it
Awesome.
was like one of the greatest experiences I'll never forget in my life. And I actually that night, Terry Funk and Mick Foley and I had dinner together, the three of us, and
Really? Wow.
just so surreal sitting here with just
The
wild. And
Kings.
like for me being such a big fan of them and being young and stuff and just I don't know. It was so surreal. And I think back to that all the time, that whole weekend of just being his handler. And Terry would always, people would come up and it would be like $20 for a photo, $25 for a shirt. And somebody would come up, could I get this for $10 instead? And he'd be like, I'd love to do it, but old Kyle over here, he's a slave driver. He's won $25. And he'd put all the heat on me. And we had a funny thing going with that. Yeah, just a heck of a guy, that's for sure.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I was actually just thinking about like when I like handed him the ticket to like sign, he like looks at it and you could see like the wheels turn a little bit. That's when it that sparked the quick conversation and stuff like that. He was like talking about his time in Japan and all that stuff and what he was doing down there besides the wrestling anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that's pretty awesome. Damn, that's pretty cool, man. That's like.
Yeah.
That's definitely a surreal moment, just sitting there in between Mick Foley and Terry Funk. That's insane.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Being such a fan of his for a long time, then getting that job to sit with him and hang out with him. And then I met him on 2 other occasions as well. So it's just pretty wild when you get to meet your heroes and they're really cool to you back. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, definitely a big loss for the wrestling community when that happened. We did I think that day we did like a kind of like a retrospective on him and Bray Wyatt after after that happened. So yeah, he's definitely in the hearts and minds of all of us wrestling fans.
Yeah.
Especially I have the LJN too, which I love.
Oh,
That's
there
one of
you
my
go.
favorite figures.
I actually saw Tommy Dreamer the night he flew in to my town for a show, and I got to talk to him. I've talked to Tommy a lot of times, and we always talk about Terry Funk, and he actually just flew in from the funeral, so I kind of got all kind of the lowdown from the funeral and all that. So it was yeah, it's just wild.
Yeah, but yeah, man, thank you for joining. This is awesome. Glad to be able to sit down and actually to talk to you. Like I said, I watch your videos pretty much all the time, and it's just weird actually being able to speak to you. And
yeah,
it's you're one of a kind person. I think you're just great on the camera. You just maybe that's why all those like shows reach out to you. You just have like that presence that like you're welcoming.
I don't know.
You're very warm. You have a warm presence to you.
No, maybe one day I'll land that. I'm trying to get on like a soap opera or something. Maybe I can get one of those jobs.
Oh man, you get the hair.
Yeah,
you get the hair flowing with the fan and everything. That'd be great. Let everyone know where we can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on the X, I guess it's called these days, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sir Paul 64 on the X, and then _Kyle_Peterson on Threads and on Instagram, and then of course on YouTube. Just started a second YouTube channel. It's going to be a little bit different than my current channel. I'm putting out 3 videos a day, like I said earlier, and I figured I've got a heck of a backlog of videos. I think on my Patreon I have over 300 videos that haven't been on traditional YouTube yet. And I said, that's a heck of I could basically stop and keep running. So I started a second YouTube channel that I will here in the next few weeks. I'm going to do maybe a weekly live stream over there. So maybe I'll have you on one of those. Once we get rolling on that.
I would love it.
So I'll have that going on. And I'm going to do a weekly top 5 over there that's different than a wrestling top 5. It might be G.I. Joe. It might be something else. And I'll have a Turtle Tuesday segment with some Ninja Turtles on Tuesdays.
Nice.
A figure hunt each week over there. And then some bonus content. So building up that second channel with all the overflow. Just a lot going on at all times. There's no doubt about it. So search me out on YouTube, Kyle Peterson 1980, Kyle Peterson 2.0. You search Kyle Peterson, you'll get to me eventually.
Awesome. Again, thank you for joining me on this wonderful audio journey. I hope everyone enjoyed themselves listening to my musings and Kyle's musings. Hopefully you can pick and choose who you like better. If you're sick of my voice, like I said, it's tough crap because I'm on like literally 3 times a week. So get
Either
used
way,
to it.
we had fun talking to each other, even if nobody else wants to listen.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's whatever. I mean, as long as I got to talk to you, that's all that matters. But
There you go.
anyway, thank you everyone for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
Peace.